Okay, today's video has been long awaited for a very long time. It is the chest tips video. Now, I did a back video that taught you all the tips that I can say and think of to get a better pump, a better contraction, a better lat workout, right? So this is gonna be the video that teaches you, from my perspective, all the tips, all the things that I can think of to get you a better pump in your chest and a better contraction in your chest. Now, there's a lot, so I'm just gonna jump in. First off, when you're pressing things with a barbell, dumbbell, whatever you're doing, a lot of people put the bar right here on the back of their hands, and you lose a ton of power when you're doing that because you're not pushing directly into your wrist, into your elbow, into your shoulder, into your pec. So, you want to make sure that the dumbbell and the barbell is close to your palm and that you're pushing through the palm of your hand solidly. Now, this next tip is probably the most important tip that I can think of. When you're doing any sort of chest movement, say you're just pushing, you're doing bench. Here, I gotta show you this. Usually people think about chest movements being too simple, just pushing up and letting it fall back, pushing up, letting it fall back. When I push away from my body, even though my hands are stuck wherever I've grabbed on the bar, the dumbbells, whatever I've grabbed, I push my elbow in and I try to do this. I try to turn my hand like this and I try to push my elbow in like that. Now, that's not going to happen. You're not going to move your hands at all. But think about that. As you're pushing in, I'm getting a really nice squeeze and contraction as I'm pulling my elbows in and giving myself a little twist, as compared to just doing this. See, no contraction, full contraction. Which brings me to my next tip. When you're pushing, don't think about pushing through your hands. Don't think about pushing this weight up through your hands. Think about pushing your elbows forward. Think about controlling through your elbows. And that's the same thing with almost any exercise. When you're doing rows, you're thinking about pulling with your elbows. When you're doing chest press, you're thinking about pushing with your elbows. Or when you're doing a fly, think about the movement coming from your elbows. Think about pulling your elbows in front of you and touching them. Don't think about pulling these big weights from your hands. Now, here's another tip that I use constantly. Before I actually start my workout, I sit there for like 5 minutes and just contract my chest. Seriously, I know it's gonna look stupid or it's gonna feel stupid or whatever you think, whatever stigma you have on it, don't even worry about it. Just sit there and contract. And make sure that you're getting a good contraction in your chest. And as you do this, you'll feel your chest pump up. Now, when you're doing this, two things are happening. As you're getting a pump, you're getting more blood into your chest, you become more aware naturally of your chest because there's more blood in it, you're getting more control of it. But number two, you're teaching yourself how to make that contraction happen as you're doing, for example, flies. You're now thinking about contracting your chest while you do it, or when you're doing bench. Now you're thinking about contracting your chest as you bench instead of just pushing the weights up, which often just activates the triceps. Think about that all the time. And even when you're just outside, just at work or at school or whatever, just sit there and flex your chest. Figure out what works for you to make your chest flex. On barbell bench, when you have positioned your hands and you're squeezing, I like to do suicide grip, but you can do whatever grip you want. When you're there and your hands are placed, when you're coming down and pushing off your chest, think about pushing up, right? But instead of just pushing up, also think about pushing in. Now, you aren't going to be able to move your hands any closer to each other, and they shouldn't move at all because you're positioning and you're grabbing on the bar. But just think about pushing in. Now, that's going to naturally give you that little movement that I was talking about earlier, and it's also going to make you think about your elbows instead of your hands, and it's going to give you another good contraction in your chest. Now, here's another tip that I find just invaluable. Whenever you're doing dumbbell flies or you're doing cable crossover flies, instead of thinking about just bringing the weight together, instead of just bringing horizontally together, you're also going to add a little diagonal movement. So instead of just going like this, now you're also bringing your hands forward. So you're almost going left and right, and then you're going diagonal at the very end of it. So the last part of the movement is almost like this upward bit, and that activates that upper part of your chest. For me, at least, I get a really solid upper contraction when I'm doing flies and I think about pulling them up at the last bit of the movement. When I'm doing cable flies and I think about pulling up at the last bit of the movement, I get a good contraction that you can see right now. I'm getting that good contraction when I do that upper part. Whereas if I just do it here, I don't get that full contraction. You can see that, and then I go up and I get that full contraction up there. Now the last tip that I can give you is right after you finish your last exercise, your last set of chest, you need to immediately go over to a wall or a pole and stretch. Now you're just gonna put your elbow a little bit higher than your shoulder, and you're just gonna push your torso forward while keeping your arm back on that wall or whatever and feeling your pec stretch out. Now this serves two purposes. You're going to stretch the fascia, which is going to allow you to grow and become more mobile in your chest. You're going to have more flexibility so you can do better flies and whatnot. But also you're feeling a different pain in your chest, which is causing you to be more proprioceptive of where your chest is, again, because you're feeling a whole different set of your chest. And when you're doing chest on the next chest day or workout or whatever, you're going to be even that much more aware of where your chest is, and you get a better contraction as you're doing your chest workout. Now when I do chest days, I usually aim for 2 to 3 compounds, and by compounds I mean some sort of press, you know, some sort of decline, incline, flat, barbell, dumbbell, machine, push-ups, assisted rack, anything that is using more than one muscle compound. And then I finish that out with 1 to 2 isolations, either being cable crossovers or dumbbell flies. Now those are always the way that I end out my chest, because by that time I'll have a pump from the compounds, and then when I go on to the isolation for a fly of either type, dumbbell or cable, I'm able to stretch my chest out, really become aware of it, and also finish pumping it, because those isolations are what really give me the solid last bit of pump where my chest is just like really sticking out. Alright guys, there we go. I just gave you all the chest tips that I could think of to give you a better workout and a better contraction and pump in your chest. Maybe if I think of more in the future, I'll do a part 2 to this, but I hope this can help out a lot of you, and I hope you guys take these tips and go to your next chest workout and try to implement these. And I'd really appreciate if you could come back to this video after you try some of these tips out and let me know what did or did not work, or if you found something else that works for you that you'd like me to include in the second part. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I appreciate every view, every like, every comment. Speaking of which, if you haven't liked already, please like the video. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, what's wrong with you? Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Lift heavier, die MIRIN. Team Beyond the Week. Play the dubstep!